Howdy, guys. Welcome to another Monday night and another Cliff Notes Live. Welcome. Let's start off as I always do with an SKD 143. I love my wife, I love my kids, and I certainly love all the fellow reality TV fans out there and all of y'all out here hanging out with me this evening. Welcome aboard. I'm so happy to see y'all again. Let's see who all we got out here. Ma's here. Dawn saying she's not going to be in this evening. Well, Ma, there's a lot of people who watch this on replay that don't necessarily watch it live. It means they can't chat back and forth. But I'm still welcome to y'all as well. And I hope to see y'all live one of these days as well. David, Amanda, Anthony, Chickadee, Cross Tracks. I got everyone out here. Angie as well. Joshy P. Welcome all of y'all. I hope y'all are doing fantastic. Y'all know we're in June. Do y'all know? It's June 7th in 30 days, 31 days, in 1 month from tonight. We've got the live move-in of Big Brother 23. I am so excited. Yeah, I've always loved Big Brother. So even if I'd never been on the show, I'd be excited about it. But especially now that I've been on the show, I'm ready to go. We're going to talk about that a little bit. A new platform that I'm going to be working with Big Brother on and all that. Just to have more fun talking about it. But anyway, we'll talk about that. But 1 month away. So y'all better be getting your sleep in now, because once those live feeds come on, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, because I'm going to be watching them all the time and probably doing some kind of recaps or something again. I think so. I hope so. If we can make it work. But anyway, 1 month away. All right. So what else is going on, guys? I got a few things. I want to look at these comments first. Nicole Anthony is coming. Who said that, Ma? Oh, Nicole Anthony shows up tonight. Amanda saying, yeah, I know she's doing some kind of hangout as well. So, hey, if y'all are watching me live, great. If y'all are watching me later, hey, I missed you during the live, but I'm glad you're watching now. So anyway, let me change my position a little bit so you can get my bright and pearlies there here in front of you. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit while we get a few more people coming in for the show. First of all, let's talk about what today is. Yeah, we always have to start like that. I hope y'all enjoy that. If not, tell me and we'll change the format. But I am always amazed at some of the stuff that's going on. Some of the celebrations I enjoy. Some of them you kind of wonder why anyone bothered to pick them in the first place. But we got some good ones today. The first one, this is one of my personal favorites. Today is National Chocolate Ice Cream Day. Every day should be National Chocolate Ice Cream Day, right? I love my ice cream. Now, I'm a big fan of strawberries, strawberry cake, strawberry ice cream, strawberry everything. That's my fruit, but it's hard to beat chocolate ice cream. I was so happy when I was in the Big Brother house. We actually had chocolate ice cream. Not a lot of it. You had to be careful, and you couldn't be seen eating too much ice cream, because then if it ran out, people would get mad at you. So you had to be a little careful about it. But we did have chocolate ice cream while I was in the house, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. So if you got some sitting there in the freezer, you got an excuse to be eating the chocolate ice cream today. And if you don't, you got an excuse to go down to the store and get some ice cream instead. So happy National Chocolate Ice Cream Day to all of y'all. Let me look at the comments before we go on any further. Ma saying they don't have Big Brother After Dark. I'm so bad. I know. And I saw a thing, and I don't know if this is official. It may just be a rumor right now, but I saw a thing saying they may not have Big Brother After Dark again this year. Which, Orwell is the mascot of Big Brother After Dark. And I always enjoyed having it on there, because not everyone in the house realized it, but I knew what hours After Dark was on. And so I knew that during that time period, there were even more people than just watching the live feeds that were watching because of that. And so I would always try to make sure I had a little more fun, a little more playing jokes or doing whatever was going on at night, talking about while After Dark was on. And no one else really even seemed to notice or remember it at all. But yeah, now that's not on. We don't have Orwell back in the house, which means he gets to stay here with me. I guess that's the one good part. But yeah, I've heard no more After Dark as well. Amanda's asking, did they offer y'all haircuts or hair dye in the Big Brother house? Well, Amanda, no, indeed. In fact, during the audition process, I was told at one point in time when it looked like there was a possibility I was going to be on the show, they were saying, we were talking about clothes that you can bring in, clothes that you can't bring in. There's lots of rules about logos and companies, things like that. Well, one of the things that was mentioned was the fact that there'd be no no barbers or anything else. And one of the people asked me, said, Cliff, hopefully every year seems like there's someone in the house that that knows how to do haircuts. So hopefully that'll be the case, because we don't provide it. Y'all have to do it on your own. And my thing is, first of all, my hairstyle is pretty easy. It's not that hard if there's no one in there anyway. But I actually told this person, I said, worst comes to worst, I've sheared sheep before. So, it can't be any worse. Give me a pair of clippers. If I can shear some sheep, I certainly can cut someone's hair. Got a little laugh out of that. And fortunately, that wasn't the case. I think I've mentioned it before. We had a few barbers, and not official legal barbers, but I don't know how that works in California, all the union rules and all of that. We may have violated all kinds of rules, but no, I think Bella cut my hair one time and then she went home. Who else cut my hair? Jessica cut my hair one time. She went home. Tommy cut my hair one time. He went home. And then before I got evicted from the house, there wasn't anyone left to cut my hair. I guess maybe Nicole would have done it. Mickey had no desire to do it, but I said, I'll just do it on my own. So I got my shears. We only got hair cutting tools on Thursdays of the eviction show. That was the only time we were allowed to have them. And so I took it myself and I went up in the HOH bathroom and gave myself a haircut, which I guess was okay. But so now there's the long answer to your question, Amanda. No, we don't have barbers or anything else. We get our own little scissors and shears on eviction nights. Hair dye. I know some of the women, like Nicole, she got a chance to dye her hair, and I don't remember. She may have brought that along in her luggage, and that's why she was able to use it. I don't really know, but some people dyed their hair while they're in there. Not so much me, but we did have that. What else? We did have. Let me look at a few of these other things. But yeah, and she may have even put that in her HOH basket. I don't remember how Nicole got her hair dyes. Let's see. Did they offer you? I saw that. All right. Hey, Mom. My mom is out here. Howdy, 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 Mom. Says we need to celebrate Harry and Meghan's new baby, Lily. Okay. I didn't even know about Harry and Meghan's new baby, but welcome, baby Lily. Welcome to the world. Sure, you're going to do just fine. Enjoy living in those giant castles and hanging out with the Queen Mother and all that stuff. The privileged life, right? Grow up in a castle. That's pretty cool. They're in the U.S. Oh, that's okay. Well, all right. Yeah, I'm getting clarification. I was getting ready to say, I try to keep up with the news. I didn't even really realize that she was pregnant, right? I thought maybe I wasn't paying attention. They're just here in the United States. Okay, well, welcome to the United States, little baby Lily. Hope you enjoy it. So yeah, I got my black spots where I just don't keep up with stuff, I guess. The Queen disowned him. I knew the Queen disowned Harry and Meghan. I just didn't know. I didn't. This is the baby part that got me confused. Yeah, give me a break. I'm about as far away from the king and queen as you could possibly imagine, right? All right, I guess there's no king, so I'm way far away from that one, right? Anyway, all right, off on a whole different tangent. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. All right, let's get back to the days then. All right, so I talked about National Chocolate Ice Cream Day. Oh, all right, Soldier Knows Best. I'll talk about this one. Says, can't wait to see you on MTV The Challenge to show those young kids how it's done. Well, I may have a great first episode. We'll see how the rest of it goes. I guarantee I'd give it 100%. Now, I may just fall over in the middle. When they come out and they say, all right, as a first challenge, why don't you pick up this 70-pound log and run up that mountain over there? It's only about 10 miles away, and you'll have to, it's about 3,000 or 4,000 feet higher than where you are, but run over there and you'll be good. I say, well, yeah, just pick up my old body off the side of the trail somewhere along the way, because that's how far I may make it. No, I'd give everything I had, and I actually would show them a thing or two, but challenge is hard, right? I still haven't watched Challenge All-Stars. I watched and I recapped the last challenge. It was on MTV, but I haven't watched the All-Stars yet. Put it on the list, just like everything else. I'll put it on the list. Angie's saying you're closer to the Queen than you think. We'll message you why. All right, well, Angie, with your connections, I sure am. I tell you what, I will tell y'all a quick story that I hadn't planned on, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Talk about the Queen and all of that. Back a while back, back in late 90s, early 2000s or so, I was in Aberdeen. and doing some shows and visiting with clients and all that. Well, on the weekend, I rented a car and said, I'm going to go see some castles. And so I drove around, saw some castles, driving a stick shift while driving on the left-hand side of the road. That's a little difficult. That took some getting used to, but I drove all around. I saw some really cool castles. But at one point I pull up to a huge crowd of people just on the side of the road with policemen and everything. And so I asked them, I said, what's going on, guys? Is there something special going on? They said, yeah, the Queen and the Queen Mother, they go to church right up that hill, and all these people are waiting to see the Queen and Queen Mother. Well, that's cool. So I pulled into the parking lot as well, along with everyone else. And I waited, and sure enough, after a little while, here comes a Rolls Royce going down the road, and then they make a little right-hand turn to go up this hill to their summer church. You know, I guess the royal family spends time in Aberdeen or in Scotland during the summer. And so sure enough, they go by, and there's a Queen Mother, 90, however old she is. There's the Queen Elizabeth, not a whole lot younger, but they're both sitting in the back of the Rolls, and they're kind of doing their Queen wave. And I'm going, hey guys, how are you? That's pretty cool. And so I was excited to actually see the two of them. And they waved at me and 1,000 other people. So quickly then I rushed back to my car, figuring I'm going to get out of there before everyone else so I can go see some more castles and all. So I pull out. As soon as I pull out, a policeman stops me, a Bobby, right? That's what they call there. The policeman stops me and comes over and says, sir, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm all right. I saw the Queen and Queen Mother. It's pretty cool. He says, oh, you're an American. I said, yeah. He says, well, here in Britain, we drive on the left-hand side of the road. Yeah, I was so excited about the whole seeing the Queen and Queen Mother. As soon as I pulled out to the right side of the road, and I don't know, they thought I was up to no good or drinking or I don't know. But as soon as they heard my Texan accent, they said, hey, just get out here. Just stay on the left-hand side of the road. So that was fine, but that was my encounter with the royal family over in England, in the UK, and my experience with the Bobbies as well. They're nice. I mean, they didn't do anything. Just told me to stay on the left-hand side of the road. But yeah, so I have seen the Queen before. I doubt she'd remember me. Maybe. Wouldn't that be cool if she said, hey, that guy in Big Brother, I remember seeing him one time sitting on the side of the road waving at me. Yeah, I believe that was it. But anyway, so there you go. That's my experience. All right, we talked about chocolate ice cream, guys. I've got one more for y'all that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Maybe a little history lesson for some of y'all out there. Today, in addition to National Chocolate Ice Cream Day, is also National VCR Day. How many of y'all have ever used a VCR? I imagine there's a few out there that have. I know there's a few of you have. I also think there's probably a few of you that never have. Y'all ever used a VCR? And I'm going to sit here and look at the comments and see. Do y'all know what a VCR stands for? That's another question, and I'll just go ahead and throw that out. Video cassette recorder. And when it came out, it was a big deal. My mom's here. I'm sure she remembers when we went as a family and bought the first VCR. I think we actually bought it for my dad as a birthday present, Father's Day present. I don't know. It was a present for him, but I was kind of excited about it. I don't even remember what we recorded back then. The Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island in the afternoon so we could watch it over. And I don't remember what we actually recorded, probably some sports events, things like that. But I remember as a kid getting our first VCR. I remember getting our first microwave so we could fix nachos and popcorn. I mean, we were big time back when we got that microwave. That was pretty impressive. Paid a fortune for them back then. They weren't cheap like they are nowadays. You can't even buy a VCR anymore. I don't even think anywhere sells them, at least not here in the United States. Who even uses them anymore? But it is National VCR Day. And I do have a little bit of a story to that. Do y'all realize I ran out of time last week, so I never got a chance to actually talk about it. But last week was the 20-year anniversary of the very first episode of Survivor. Y'all remember that? Oh man, that was a long time. It was 20 years ago. But I remember I was so excited that Survivor was coming on. Before the show even started, as soon as I heard it announced on the news, I already was excited. I thought it was going to be an amazing show. This idea of reality TV and competitions and all of that. I'd already watched The Real World and Echo Challenge, Adventure Racing. So those coming all together, it just seemed like an amazing concept for a show. So I made sure to set my VCR up to record the first episode of Survivor, because I wasn't sure if I was going to get home from work in time. Our kids were young at the time. You never know what's going on. So I set it up to record so I wouldn't miss it. And so sure enough, the very first show ever of Survivor, we watched off of a VCR tape. And I may have that tape somewhere still to this day. The show, I'm sure I'd pick it up on All Access or something, but it'd be fun to watch a videotape from 20 years ago, just to watch the commercials and things like that. So happy National VCR Day. Some of you may still have VCRs. I can't even think last time I watched something on VCR, but they're still out there. So happy National VCR Day. Ma said Survivor was the biggest thing back in 2000. They even mentioned on The Sopranos. Survivor was huge when it first came out. Oh my gosh, the Richard and Sue and and Rudy. Those three there at the end, they were on all the talk shows. I don't know what the viewership was. It was huge. It was all anyone talked about. And then just a little bit later that same summer, Big Brother came along. People talked about that, but maybe not quite as much. It took a while for Big Brother to get their feet about and changing the rules a little bit. And so we voted everyone out from inside the house instead of the public voting, things like that. But yeah, that's when reality TV all started. And who would have thought 20 years ago when I watched that first episode that somewhere down the road I'd be doing my own version of reality TV and doing stuff just like those guys do. It's crazy the way the world works. I'd never think that things may not. Life is an adventure. You never know what's going to happen. So expect the unexpected, right? All right, let's see. Let me look at some of these comments real quick because I see a bunch of them coming through. And y'all know me. Once I start talking, it's hard to keep up. Angie said, I still have video cassettes of New Kids on the Block recording. Isn't that? I think that's New Kids. I always confuse my 98 Degrees NSYNC, New Kids on the Block, a Menudo in there as well, but I think that was them. We were like a pig and poo when our family got our first VCR. Yeah, Chicky D, we were too. We thought we'd hit the big time when we had a VCR. And now, I mean, it's not VCR, but I don't watch a lot of stuff live. Almost everything I watch is recorded on DVRs or streaming, things like that. So that's kind of nice, not having to watch all those commercials and everything. It's really nice. All right, let's see. Still have 2 VCRs and a lot of VHS tapes. Jake says, I've got a lot of VHS tapes and half of them aren't labeled. And but I've got a few funny ones too. Like I used to love the show China Beach, which was all about a bunch of people working at a field hospital in Vietnam and drama series. I just love the show. So I recorded all the episodes. I think I still have those upstairs somewhere as well, or hidden away somewhere. Let's see what else. Peggy Jeffco. I got the very first kind of VCR, paid a fortune, got it to tape General Hospital back in the Luke and Laura days. I kind of remember General Hospital. You know what I remember? I think it was General Hospital. You know who I remember that was on General Hospital? Jackie Templeton was her character's name, but the actress was Demi Moore. Y'all know that? Demi Moore started off as a soap opera star on General Hospital. She played like a reporter or something, if I remember. Long time ago. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I can see how someone would record all the daytime soaps. They don't even have that many of them anymore, do they? I think just 1 or 2. I guess daytime soaps kind of have gone away with so many different channels and all of that. But yeah, that's a pretty good reason, Peggy, to have your VCR going. What else? Let's see. I still have video cassettes and New Kids on the Block. Yeah, I saw that. Have you been to Bush's Presidential Library? Is it near you? Amanda's asking. Amanda, it's up in College Station, which is an hour and a half, couple hours from here. It's pretty close. I mean, I went to school at A&M. My son went to A&M. So the library is cool there. I have not been inside yet, and I don't know why. I guess because every time I'm up there, I end up getting sidetracked because of Aggie football or going over to the saloon and playing little dominoes, or when Daniel was there visiting with Daniel. Seems like every time we're up in College Station, we just never quite have enough time in the day to go into the museum. But I've heard it's an incredible museum. And Bush, I met President Bush several times. He was big here in Houston. We saw George Strait in concert one time, and we were way up high. This is in the old Astrodome. We were way up high. He was sitting down on the floor, not just a few rows back. But what was funny is watching George Bush. He was such a friendly guy. He's sitting there eating popcorn, and at one point, he just turns around. He starts handing out his bag of popcorn to other people around him, seeing if they want some. Just, yeah, he's president, but he's just a normal old guy. So, Bush was an incredible person, lived here in Houston, and I need to go see the museum. But I haven't yet. But I'll put that on the list. Just like everything else. Joshy P, do you remember floppy disk, Cliff? Oh, yeah, I remember. I remember floppy disk. I'll take it a step further than that. Before floppy disk, I actually talked my parents into buying me a Texas Instruments TI 994A, I think was the name of this computer that they bought for me. And it didn't have a floppy disk. It had a cassette recorder. And you would do your programming. For me, it was more, there were some games that you could have, you buy it as a cassette tape, and you would play that cassette tape onto the computer, and it would recognize all the beeps and boops and everything else as codes, and would actually store everything on an audio cassette. And that was what we had as floppies before they had floppy drives. But yeah, I can't say I still have anything on a floppy drive nowadays. But I remember the big floppy drives, 5 1/4. I remember 4 3/4, the smaller hard floppies. Yeah, that was all during my time. It's amazing how much we've progressed, Joshy P. It is indeed. All right, let's see. Richard Hatch and the Sue Hawk thing, Moss saying, yeah, I know. Richard was funny. I remember Sue gave a big speech about rats and snakes and let the island go back to the way it was. And I guess she voted for Richard at that point. I don't remember, but I need to watch it. It'd be interesting to watch the first season. It's been so long. All right, let's see what else. How about a Commodore 64? Cindy's saying, I know the Commodore. I don't know if I ever messed around with the Commodore. I was a Texas Instruments kind of guy. I wasn't much of a computer anything guy back then. It was so new. But yeah, I remember the Commodore 64. I remember the old original Nintendo. If we had the games that we have nowadays back when I was a kid, I just would have been blown away. I would have never left the house. You would have never seen me outdoors. I wouldn't know what grass looked like because I'd be indoors playing video games 24 hours a day if my parents would let me. Because back then everything was so rough and basic for those first computer games, but we loved them. It was still so cool. Oh, so much fun back then. All right, let's see. What else am I missing out on here? I think I've got most of the comments. If not, mention it again because I probably missed it. Ma saying, I feel out of place. I'm almost 16. I feel so young. Yeah, but here's the thing, Ma. I'm kind of reminiscing about all the stuff when I was a kid and everything else. Now you picture, you're 15. Picture what it's going to be like 40 years from now for you when you're in, well, what would that be? Season 63 of Big Brother or something. And you're going to be saying, yeah, I remember when Big Brother was 3-dimensional or just 2-dimensional. You'd watch it on a TV screen, and now it's all holograms. You can sit right in the middle of the house and watch everything going on around you. You can walk around and follow people around and listen to anything. Who knows what you're going to have 40 years from now, and you're going to be reminiscing about all of it just the same way we do. So the big circle of life, right? That's the way it goes. Chickadee saying, trying to figure out the background, not from New York City from the 70s, but wherever they have no AC. All right. Yeah, there's always a little rhyme or reason. This picture, background, and there's a reason for it. And I need to get on with my stories because y'all know me. I just talk forever. But this actually is not a picture by me, but it's a picture of a bunch of taxis, I think in Caracas, Venezuela, because that's where my story takes place. Man, I've taken some crazy taxis over the years in a whole lot of different places. I remember one time in Caracas, or actually Maracaibo, another city in Venezuela. They were taking me to the airport, and the guy had to stop and get gas. And when he stopped the car to get the gas, the battery wouldn't start. The car wouldn't start afterwards. I'm sitting there getting worried I'm going to miss my flight. But he said, "Nah, no problema, senor, no problema." Well, he does. What happens when your battery dies? You borrow some jumper cables and you get someone to jump your car, right? I mean, that's the way I've always done it. No, not in Venezuela. They've got a whole different technique. He quickly pulled out a couple of wrenches. He unscrewed the cables from his battery. He took the battery out of the car. He went over to another taxi driver nearby, borrowed his battery. They opened up the hood, took that guy's good battery out of his car, carried it over, stuck it in my taxi with the bad battery, put the cables on just long enough to start the vehicle, then took the battery back, put it in the first guy's car, put the bad battery back in my taxi, and guys said, yeah, no problema. Okay, it worked. It worked, but it took a whole lot more labor and effort and everything else. I actually, back then, I was in my late 20s or so, early 30s. I remember sitting there thinking, man, I just need to bring in jumper cables into this country because apparently, and I started asking around, no one had ever used jumper cables. They don't sell them. They don't own them. Nothing in Venezuela back then. I thought, I'm just going to capture the market. I'm going to bring in $10,000 worth of jumper cables. I'll go on Venezuelan QVC or whatever. I'm going to sell these things at their version of a Walmart. I'll make a fortune. If these people don't know how to use jumper cables, I'll be the rich. I'll be the king of the jumpers here in Venezuela. I never got around to it, and it worked for them. Their idea was, hey, it's cheaper than having to carry around this bunch of wires to do it anyway. So whatever. But yeah, I've had some stories in taxi cabs, and one of them is a little bit of a sports story. So let me move on to that if I could. Before I do that, one more today is because I promised I'd talk about this a little bit, and it's actually tomorrow. Tomorrow is Name Your Poison Day. All right, now, name your poisons. Normally what you say when, hey, what do you want to drink or whatever. But I'm naming my poison today, and it's called poison ivy. I don't know if y'all saw, I think I mentioned it last week in the show a little bit, and then I made a post on it on Instagram as well. I had a little poison ivy from last weekend that right after I did the show got to be a whole lot of poison ivy. Around my knees just turned bright red from the oils of that stuff, and it just spread everywhere. Talking about a miserable person for a while. I had a couple of days there where, and you're not supposed to scratch. It's just like when you have chicken pox. Your parents say, don't scratch. Well, same thing with poison ivy, but so miserable. Oh, I just laying there at night trying to sleep was just miserable. And it's hot down here. It's we're in June. This is the middle of the summer now for Texas. But when I was going out, I couldn't wear shorts because my legs look so horrible with poison ivy. So I'm having to wear long pants and everything. And it's miserable, but the good thing is it's gotten better. I'm barely itching anymore. I'd show y'all what it looks like now, but y'all don't want to see that. Just trust me, it's gotten a lot better. So I'm almost over it. I don't know why Mother Nature hates me so much, but poison, I had to deal with bees. Now I had to deal with poison ivy. It's just been a rough spring and summer for me in terms of dealing with nature and the outdoors and all of that. I'll take the bees over the poison ivy. Now that I've dealt with a few bee stings, you do it, you're done with. This poison ivy just lasts forever. But I am doing better, so I did want to give y'all a little bit of an update on that. Andy W. saying, coolest people you ever met was Ronald Reagan and Chuck Yeager when he was in the Air Force. I never met Chuck Yeager. That would be pretty cool. Test pilot and all of that. And those guys got to be different kind of people. Chuck, test pilots is a lot like some of these astronauts, the early astronauts and all of that. Just some incredible people. I never met Ronald Reagan. I saw him once as he drove by. He was talking in Dallas, and I showed up. And just as he left, I was standing by my car by a back entrance, and I actually was the only person standing back there. And so that was kind of cool because when he drove by, he waved at me, and I looked around. I was like, hey, I'm the only person here. That means he really was waving at me. So yeah, I actually waved at President Reagan once, and he waved back at me. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. All right, let's see what else. Crosstrack, I think I'm immune to poison ivy. I've been exposed with others, and they got it, and I never did. Well, you were lucky, Crosstrack. I saw a thing that said like 86%. Seems pretty accurate number there. 86, not 85, not 86. 86% of people react to poison ivy, which means 14% of the people don't. You're lucky. I'm going to come hire you to clean out the poison ivy in these areas because I don't want to mess with it anymore. It happens to be about once a year. I get it. Hopefully I'm done for the year. Spray stuff everywhere, try to get rid of it, and then next year it comes right back again. So it's a never-ending struggle. But congrats to you if you don't have to deal with it. Joshy P asking a big brother question. Thank you, Josh P. When do you film your goodbye messages? All right, Josh P. Here's a little story on that. Typically, our goodbye messages are filmed on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. And you know what's going to happen because you start seeing a lot of people getting called in just one after another pretty quick into the diary room. And so sure enough, hey, Cliff, can you come to the diary room? And I'd go in there and say, Cliff, it's time for goodbye messages. And I'd say, okay. And the way it works is again, we don't see any faces. It's just a voice over a speaker. But they'd say, okay, Cliff, you can start with either one. You can say whatever you want, as long as you want. It doesn't matter. Well, I never wanted to talk too long because I was afraid if I talked for 2 or 3 minutes, they're going to edit out. They're only going to show the little bit that makes the person the most mad at me or is the biggest dig or whatever. And so I always kept my messages pretty short so I could control what the person actually said or actually saw me saying. But I would go in and usually I would pick the person that I didn't think was going home and do their message first. And lots of times I was like, but if you're going home, if you're watching this and I am completely confused and have no clue what's happening in this game, and I'll probably be right behind you because I'm obviously lost. And so those were my typical messages for that person. The person I thought was going home, I was a lot more serious with that. And I was trying to do jury management. So I think from the point of everyone being in jury onwards, I tried to be very complimentary. I know Tommy, I spent a lot of time saying, man, Tommy, I didn't want to send you home. I wanted to keep you over Holly, but you were just too dangerous, which was true. I really believe that. But I tried to be very complimentary to everyone from jury onwards because I knew they were going to be watching it, and you never knew for certain. But here's one thing, Josh P., that you may not know. Sometimes, because y'all remember, we had a lot of fights that would be like on a Wednesday night or right before the votes, things like that. If it happened the night before or early in the morning, so there were a couple of times where they actually said, if anyone wants to change their goodbye messages, you can come back in and do it. But even if that wasn't the case, if you just decided that, oh man, I now I'm kind of regretting saying what I did, you could ask the diary room, said, hey, can I come back in and do a new goodbye message? And they'd say, yeah, come on in. No big deal. Now, there's no guarantee if you've given one and then you come back in and you record your second one. The first one may be, oh, yeah, I hate you. I hope you don't win anything. This is, I'm so glad to see you go. Well, you may come in the second time and say, I loved having you in the house. I hate to see you go. There's no guarantee that they're actually going to show that evicted house guest the second one that you wanted to show versus the one that you said while you were upset or whatever. I mean, once you record it, it's theirs to do with what they will. But they did give us the options to change our goodbye messages a few times. And there was once or twice I did that. The time I remember was, I think it was a time when Kat and I were on the block. So I didn't do a goodbye message for me. Actually, I think I did one, and it was just like, yeah, you idiot. What do you should have, whatever. But I remember doing one for Kat because she blew up because she found out about this potential alliance where I was trying to get in with Tommy and Nick and them just to save myself. But anyway, so I think I went back in and changed it and gave her a little bit more about, hey, nothing personal. I'm just doing what I have to do to play the game. So there were one or two times I changed my message. Again, I don't know if they played the old one or the new one, but they do give you that particular option. Angie's asking, is it hard to get emotional to film goodbyes when you don't know if the person will be evicted? Yeah, it wasn't so much for me, Angie, because I kind of thought I knew who was getting evicted. And so for them, it was very sincere. And I got to say, there really are very few people that I wasn't sincere when I was saying, hey, I've had a blast playing with you and all of that, even if it was someone like Jack, which I absolutely wanted out of the house. But I tried to keep my emotions away from the gameplay and all of that. And so I tried to be sincere and was being honest when I said, it's been a pleasure playing with you, or you're a strong player, whatever I said. But yeah, when I'm filming one that I think is never going to be played ever, it was a little harder to get emotional. But on the other hand, there was a lot more of the emotions required on that message was a whole lot more surprise. And so I really tried to put myself in the position of saying, oh my God, what would you say if this person actually does end up going home? And so then it was pretty easy to say, oh my God, what happened? What's the deal with that Rachel Swindler said to Julie after, what's the deal with Angela? I kind of felt like that on some of my goodbye messages of, man, if this person goes home, I'm just lost in terms of gameplay and everything else. And no, it wasn't too hard. I tell you what was more emotional, Angie, was some of these, we weren't really coached in the diary room. That's, they would go in and say, tell us what you want to say. But sometimes there's editing in the stories, and sometimes they'd want you to be very, this is the most important veto ever. I've got to win this, and very high energy and everything else. And then maybe sometimes you'd also be adding, sometimes I'd say, this is the most important veto ever. I have got to win this thing. Very serious, very sincere, very focused. So there were different emotions that you would go with it. And so it was funny where you would say it a lot of different ways. And then we would always try to interpret, it sounds like maybe they want me to be more serious. how's that affect how they're spinning me? Maybe they're portraying me as really scared and worried about this situation as opposed to kind of happy-go-lucky about it. Everything that happened in a diary room, any interaction you ever had with anyone in that house, the paranoia would kick in. You'd try to interpret that. What does that mean if that happens? And that would happen in the diary room a lot. Someone would say, are you worried about such and such? Well, I wasn't until you asked me, and now I'm going to be thinking twice about it. So that was always coming into play anytime you interacted with anyone, producers, contestants, anything inside that house. All right, Joshy P, what does a handler do for you on Big Brother? Do they take care of you up until move in? Yeah, kind of. I mean, there were people who would keep track of you in your room. You know, hey, are you doing okay? Do you need some snacks? Do you want a new DVD movie? And before, I'm sure y'all know, before we actually went into the house, we were all each kept in a separate little room on the studio lot, and obviously not allowed to see each other. And so during that time, there was a kind of a handler person that would sit there with me, and they did it for all the other people as well, and just kind of talk to you a little bit, and they would have a radio, and it's okay, it looks like we'll be moving in about 30 minutes or so, things like that. So mainly they were just the communication to us and telling us what our schedules were, where we may need to be, things like that. Just very basic kind of stuff, Joshy. Ma saying, I'm going to watch Kat's goodbye messages now. I'll be back in a few minutes. I think Kat was pretty upset with me. And now she told me later some of that was just because she wanted to go out with the bang and all that. She wasn't really upset with me, but I didn't know that at the time. She called out Nick and myself, and there was a part of me that said, I don't care. Whatever it takes for me to stay in the house, I'll turn against anyone. I'll throw anyone under the bus. I didn't want her to think it was anything personal against her, and now I know she didn't. But I was worried at the time because she really seemed upset. And then later, when I got out of the house, she said, no, I was your biggest fan. I was going to be voting for you if you made it final two. So it's like, man, I wish I'd known that ahead of time, but maybe just as well I didn't. All right, so what time is it? 7:30. Well, guys, you start asking me Big Brother questions, and I can certainly talk forever. But let me get to a couple of my stories, because what an exciting weekend of sports, and not just regular sports. I watched a little Houston Astros and things like that, but I'm talking international sports, and two of them in particular: Formula One racing and soccer, which isn't, domestic soccer as well, but it's kind of an international sport. And I follow both of those because I've done so much traveling overseas, talking to Europeans, Asians, middle people, all these people who follow those sports more so than a lot of people in the U.S. And so it behooved me. That's a fancy word, huh? Behooved me to understand those sports so I could talk with other people, just casual conversation, relationships and things like that. So I started following both of them. So Formula One, they had a race in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is a former part of the Soviet Union. I've been there. I've been to Baku a few times. So it's kind of fun watching the race through the city streets and telling my wife, saying, hey, Sharon, I've been in that building. I stood on top of that thing. I've been everywhere they're doing the racing. It's an incredible race. For those of you who don't follow, I'm not going to talk forever about, but there's one guy, Max Verstappen, a pretty young, one of the younger racers, doing real well this season. He was leading the race up until 2 laps left to go out of a 51-lap race. With 2 laps to go, one of his tires blew out. He crashed into a wall, so he lost the race, didn't even finish the race. Well, they had to shut down the whole racetrack while they cleared his car off the road and got all the debris off. When they got ready to start, there's another race car driver, Lewis Hamilton, who has won the championships. They keep track of who wins how many races every year, and you have a champion. He's won it for the last few years. Just an amazing driver. Well, he's in second place and getting ready to pass the guy in first as they start the race over again with just 2 laps to go. As he goes around a corner, his brakes go out, or he didn't hit his brakes right. He slides off to the side. He finishes almost at the very last of the pack, so he doesn't win either. Another guy who's never won before, I don't think, won the race at the very end. The 2 big, fantastic drivers both lose at the very end, and this guy sneaks in and wins. So it's an amazing Formula One race to watch. I love watching Formula One. But the other sporting event that was really exciting. Oh, I did post on it last night as well. CONCACAF, I think is how they pronounce it. The North American, all of the soccer teams from North America had a tournament over the last few weeks And the championship game was last night. It was the United States versus Mexico, men's national team soccer. Big rivalry. These two teams do not like each other at all. They play each other for the championship in Denver last night. Like 1 minute into the game, minute and a half into the game, Mexico scores a goal. And I'm watching it thinking, oh, this is going to be horrible. Well, the United States comes back a little bit later, scores a goal to tie the game. Second half, getting near the end of the game, Mexico scores another goal to go up. I think, that's the end of it now. That was great for a while, but, the United States comes back like a minute later, scores a goal to tie the game again. So they end up going to extra time to play this thing. In extra time, it was like 5 minutes to go in the extra time period. Mexico commits a foul inside the right in front of the goalkeeper. The United States gets to make a penalty kick. They make it. They go ahead 3-2. And then with like 30 seconds left in the overtime period, they call a penalty on the United States, and Mexico gets to do a penalty kick on the United States. And our goalkeeper manages to jump just right, block the ball. The ball goes flying up in the air off to the side. They had to play another, a little while to run out the clock, but they won the game. The United States won the 3-2. Mexico's got all these older, very professional players. The United States is the youngest team that's ever played in a men's U.S. national team before. The guy who scored the winning goal just turned 18 not too long ago. So very, very young team. And it was so exciting. I had a blast watching the game. There were a lot of fights. The fans in Mexico were not happy when the United States won at the end. They were throwing bottles and cups and all kinds of debris on the field. The coach for Mexico got thrown out of the game for protesting to the umpire. There were a lot of fights between the players themselves and some hard fouls and everything else. There was just everything in this game. It was an amazing game. So anyway, there you go. I had a blast watching soccer. I normally only watch soccer during World Cup and things like that, but this was a fantastic game. So there's my little the way I finished up the weekend was so much fun. Let me go. Anthony saying if Cliff had gotten Jack out when he wanted to, it would have thrown Mickey's game. Yeah, it would have been very interesting. I wanted Jack gone so bad then, but Christy had that power. I knew it was out of my hands if she wanted to use the power, and I couldn't take the chance. Otherwise, I was ready to send him home because I felt like everyone was looking up to Jack. He was a linchpin between so many different relationships, and I thought getting him out of there would cause that alliance to start blowing up a whole lot faster even than it did. So, yeah, it would have been great, but game's a game, whatever. Besides NHL ice hockey, European football, soccer is my fave. Yeah, Angie, I enjoyed as well. I like that high level of soccer and everything else. And with that in mind, being 7:45, I had a couple of stories. I said I was going to tell some sports stories from my overseas travel. So I'm going to try a couple of them for y'all real quick. One of them, and now this is pretty amazing. I told you I like World Cup. There's one World Cup where the United States was playing. I don't remember if the World Cup that year was in Germany or South Korea and Japan. Somewhere over in the European, that side of the world, Europe, Asia, because I was in Venezuela. I was in I was in Caracas, Venezuela. And because of that, the difference in the time zones, the United States was playing, I think it was Italy. Pretty important match. And we watched the first part of the game while we're eating breakfast before going over to see clients and things like that. Well, we really wanted to stay and watch the rest of the game, but we couldn't. It's like, I can't believe we're going to miss the last half of this game. It's pretty good. But never fear, because we went down to the lobby of the hotel, called our taxi. Our taxi showed up. We get in the car with this taxi driver and quickly realize that he's got a TV set. And we're not talking, this is in the days before iPhones and iPads and all that. So not just a little screen like this. He's got like a 13-inch TV set up on the dashboard, jammed up with some sticks, jammed up onto the dashboard on the passenger side. And he's got a bunch of coat hangers sticking out the side window and going up in the air so he can pick up the game and watch the game while he's driving us, which at the time we thought, all right, that may not be the safest driving in the world. We got to be a little careful about that, but we can watch the soccer game while we're going over to see the clients. So we're kind of excited about that. A little less excited when we started looking around and realized that every other taxi driver that's driving in this whole city also has a TV set up in their passenger window, and they're driving the same way. We saw more wrecks that day. We saw more honking of horns because the light would turn green and they would, not as though anyone really pays attention to green lights, red lights in Venezuela anyway, but there are a lot of people that were driving even worse than they normally do down there because they were so busy watching the game. And it's probably the only time that we've ever said, take as long as you want. I don't care about the traffic jam. It just means we get to watch a little bit more of the game before we get to the client's location. Well, fortunately, the client was on the far side of the city, so it was like an hour drive. So by the time we actually got there, we were able to watch almost the entire game. So yeah, that was the most wild experience I've ever had of watching a soccer game. And it was while I was in a taxi, and hence the pictures behind me, because these are the kind of taxis that we had in Venezuela. They weren't always the fanciest, safest taxis to begin with. Now throw in a couple of TV sets into those things, and you're kind of rolling the dice, taking the chances a little bit. But I had a blast watching the game, and we were all cheered for each other, and they were cheering for the U.S. team and all of that. So it was a lot of fun watching soccer on that particular day. Ma, the person who wants to delete Twitter, son, Canadians and their hockey. All right, I'll tell you a quick story on that, Ma, and Angie as well, and David, if David's out here as well. I'm trying to think of all the Canadians out here. When I was in Saudi Arabia, where was I? Wasn't Riyadh? I can't remember the city I was in, but I was in Saudi Arabia, and unfortunately, I was stuck there over a weekend or two. There's not a lot to do in Saudi Arabia. It's not like they've got movie theaters or anything else. I remember just spending a lot of time going to restaurants and getting shawarmas and things like that. But one of the things that did happen while I was there is all the Canadians who lived in the city would get together, and there was an ice hockey rink in the middle of this Saudi Arabian town. And on Sunday mornings, they would all get together and they'd go play hockey at the local shopping mall. And so I always thought it was funny that Canadians, doesn't matter where they are in the world, they still manage to figure out a way to get their hockey in. And so, yeah, they showed it wasn't regulation size, a little bit smaller than regulation. And the guy said the ice was horrible. It was a rough place to play, but they were still able to go in the middle of Saudi Arabia and play little ice hockey while they were in there. So innovation, and you do what you have to take to get your hockey games in when you live in Canada, right? Or if you're Canadian living elsewhere. Ma, see, just say my full username. I don't know, Ma. Maybe I did. All right. So another story I got for y'all guys having to do with a little bit of soccer and all of that. I had to fly to Buenos Aires once, capital of Argentina. Well, if I remember, the airport is quite a ways outside the city. And so I land in the airport. I get in a taxi, and the taxi driver speaks only Spanish. No English whatsoever, which was kind of cool because it gave me a good chance to practice my my Spanish with him. And we talked, and traffic was horrible, so it took forever to actually get to Buenos Aires. And during the time we traveled, I started talking to him, and I found out that he was a referee or an official, a boxing judge, that he would go to Miami and judge boxing matches all the time. Miami, he still didn't speak English, but he would fly to Miami and do boxing. So we talked a little bit about boxing and everything, which was kind of cool. But then it turned into a talk about soccer. And just outside the city limits of Buenos Aires is where the Argentinian national men's team trains for their soccer and all that. Well, we start talking about, he mentioned the Argentinian team and all that. Next thing I know, he's turning into this facility, and he knew someone that was there because he said something to the guy at the gate. Next thing I know, they're letting him in. And so he drove me around the Argentinian soccer facility, their training grounds. They had just a bunch of fields and nets everywhere, but the most pristine looking grass and people just out jogging and everything. And it was amazing how much money they had spent on these facilities for these guys to represent the nation. So that was kind of cool getting to see how the Argentinians train for soccer, because, here in the United States, we watch it, but football, baseball, and basketball are the big three, and then soccer is a little bit behind that. Not down in South America. They live and die for their soccer down there. The passion is incredible. So that was cool. I got one more story for y'all as far as overseas. What's that? 751. Yeah, I can get this in. So I was another World Cup. This is in Dubai, in the Middle East, United Arab Emirates. I'm in Dubai. I'm getting ready to fly back to London so I can then fly the rest of the way home. Well, there's a World Cup match going on between Argentina and England. And I think it's like a quarterfinal. The winner advances, the loser goes home. And it's one of the big important matches. And Argentina and England don't like each other the way Mexico and the United States don't like each other from a soccer standpoint. And so the game was towards the very end. It was a tie game. Almost everyone flying back to London from Dubai were Brits. And when it came time to board this airplane, they would not get on the airplane. They said, no, we want to see how this game ends. They're all in the gate watching the TVs. And eventually, they all waited to the last second, to the final boarding call. And finally, the flight attendant saying, this is the final boarding call. If you don't get on at this point in time, you are not flying to London. And that's all there is to it. And all these Brits are arguing, saying, oh, just 5 minutes. Just give us 5 minutes. So eventually the pilot comes out and he gets on and says, if you are not on the plane by the time I get back on the jetway or whatever, you're not going. And so everyone was upset. They got on the plane. As soon as they get on the plane, they're asking the flight attendants every 15 seconds, do y'all have a score of the game? Do you have an update of the game? What's going on with the game? To the point that as soon as they got up in the air, the pilot came on and said, I know y'all want to know. I'm in contact with the deal. He said, just so you know, it's gone into overtime. They're getting ready to do penalty kicks to see who wins this game. So it's as close as you can get. And then everyone on the plane gets quiet and they are waiting and they are waiting. And finally, the pilot comes back on and says, gentlemen, just so you know, in penalty kicks, England lost to Argentina. Oh, these fans went ballistic. If they could have thrown stuff in the plane, if they could have jumped off the plane, I think they would have, because they were upset. Well, one thing I learned, I think if you win a game in soccer, or if you lose a game in soccer, either way, it's kind of an excuse to drink a little bit more than you normally do. Because by the time we got back to London, this pilot, I guess he said, Dad, just open up the bar. Let anyone have anything, because they were drinking their sorrows away. And by the time we get back to London, I'm about the only person that could walk off the plane. I've never seen a plane full of more upset people in my entire life than these Brits, these Englishmen, as they found out that Argentina had beat England and they were out of the World Cup at that point in time. But I've also, the passion, it was fun. I would feel sorry for anyone if they'd gotten on that plane and they were wearing Argentina colors, because they may not have made it back to London. They may have been pitched out of the English Channel or somewhere, because these guys were into their soccer. I love hanging out with people that are really passionate about any sport, whatever that sport is, and just watching how they react to it, because it's always a lot of fun. What's Moss saying? Anthony said, because of the Falklands, right? Yeah, the Falklands, or in Argentina, they call it the Malvinas Islands. They didn't even have the same name for those islands. But yeah, they had a little battle back in the late 80s. Didn't last for very long. Argentina not quite up to par with the Brits as far as that goes. But yeah, they don't like each other because of the islands. I think even before that, just because of soccer. So you don't need an excuse other than soccer. I think that alone is enough for them to make them rivals. But yeah, having a war with each other certainly doesn't hurt or help in terms of developing the rivalries, right? So yeah, I've got that. Sammy saying, man, the traffic is bad out there. Traffic is horrible. I don't know if you're talking about Houston or back where you are, or here in Maracaibo, but traffic in Venezuela, never fun. Yeah, it's horrible. It's terrible. And no one pays attention to the traffic laws at all. If it's a 3-lane road, guarantee there'll be about 5 or 6 cars side by side trying to get down the roads. I didn't drive. I'm trying to think if I ever drove. I drove once or twice in Venezuela, but that was about it. And only in small little towns, not like this stuff here, because this is a little rough. Lauren, sounds like LSU fans. It sounds like a whole bunch of football fans in a whole lot of different places. Yeah, a lot of SEC schools. LSU is passionate. Alabama, obviously my Aggies we're passionate as well. So yeah, you get passionate fans no matter what the sport is. I'm sure I could go over to the West Indies or somewhere and find people every bit as passionate about cricket and other sports that I'm sure with the UK, you can probably go over and find some really passionate fans about lawn bowling and darts as well. I mean, everyone's got their sports that they're into, but yeah, I love hanging out with those people and just kind of peripherally celebrating and enjoying and watching their reactions as well. When they win, when they lose, then you kind of just get out of here before it gets too rough. All right. So I've told y'all overseas soccer stories. I'll give you one more quick story, and then I think we're going to shut down. This is old Boss Hog as a kid story playing soccer. I played football and baseball when I was growing up. Soccer was around, but wasn't quite even as much as it is now. But there was a little bit of soccer back then. But I played football, and during off season, I had a brother, Robert, who was a year younger than I was. And he and I decided that we would play soccer just to continue to stay in shape for football. And so we signed up for a soccer team. I think I was probably, 8th grade, something like that, 7th grade, 8th grade. Signed up for soccer. No one on that team had ever played before. Y'all have seen the Bad News Bears, right? With the baseball team. They did a remake of it. The first one's better, I think, but yeah, that's what we were like in soccer. We were horrible. We didn't know anything about passing or anything. All we knew is you try to kick the ball in the net, and that's it. And we tried to play. Our team was the Cougars. And because we were the last team to sign up, we got the uniform that no one else wanted, which was some kind of pea green, ugly looking uniform. And we played every bit as bad as the uniform looked. I think the whole season we scored 1 goal. And that was like the last game of the season. It may have been my brother, I think, Robert, that scored. I don't remember, but we scored like 1 goal. And so about 2/3 of the way through the season, we said, well, this is crazy. We're so bad. We're horrible. So, sometimes you do well, sometimes you don't. It's all a learning experience. But at that time, we said, we're horrible. Let's make this a little more fun. So we decided, my brother and I and a couple others said, let's just treat this like it's football instead of soccer. Let's just play a little bit different game because we're going to lose anyway. So we started playing a lot more aggressively. We'd go after the ball and we would just block into people and not tackle like with our hands around it, but we would crash into people. We would accidentally trip into each other so we could fly into another person. And we were like the goons in a hockey match. We were just out there trying to have fun, as bad as we were, trying to have fun doing it at the same time. And so we just started doing a lot of crashing and running and things like that. And some of the other people didn't really appreciate on the other teams, but we had fun at the end. We still lost. We finished like an 0-12 record, and that's the only organized soccer that I ever played. But hey, I gave it a shot. It's just like Big Brother. I wasn't sure going in with those competitions how well I'd be able to do. Some of them did great. Some of them not so much. But I certainly did better than my one and only soccer season when I played for the Cougars. But at least now I can say I played soccer as a kid, right? Ma saying, how many siblings do you have? 3. I'm the oldest. Robert was a year and a half younger than I was. He, unfortunately, I lost him to a drunk driver that hit him back in 2020. In fact, right after Survivor and Big Brother premiered that summer is when that happened. And then I've got my brother Jim and then my brother Bowie, who both live up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So 4 boys in the family. No sisters or at all. A bunch of boys, bunch of testosterone in my family when we were growing up. Yeah, the local ER knew my parents by name. We'd walk in and they'd say, "Hey, welcome back. We're glad to see y'all again." And we always had. Yeah, I had a needle break off in my hand. I stepped on nails. I hit trampolines and drove my teeth through my lips. Anything you can imagine, our family went through. I never broke a bone, but I had every kind of cut you could imagine. My brother did, Robert did too. We were always in that ER. That's a whole nother story that we'll save for another episode because I got to shut it down now. It is 8 o'clock, so we're gonna shut down. But real quick, I was gonna tell y'all one final thing. Are y'all aware of Clubhouse, the new social media app? I don't know if y'all all are or not. It's kind of funny because it's audio only. There's no video at all. It's just talking. But it's a new app that's out there. Check into it if you want because, and this is why I wanted to bring up, Big Brother's going to have an official room out there. And so I did some training on it last week, just kind of learning how the app works and all that. So we're going to be out there. Who was out in that room? Cody Calafuri, myself, Tommy, Jessica, Ovi, and a whole bunch of Love Islander people as well because they're going to be doing it also. But we're going to try to do a bunch of CBS rooms out there and talk about Big Brother during the season. And we'll talk about it before people move in and everything. It's unofficial. It's an official room, but I'm not being paid to do anything. They just said, hey, y'all come out and help us participate in this room. So if you haven't checked out Clubhouse, check it out. And I'll give y'all some information as we get closer. But anyway, I just wanted to finish up with that because I always love talking Big Brother. That's going to be a cool way to do it. All right, guys. Did I miss out on anything else? I hope not. I have a few little things I'll talk about next week. But anyway, the hour goes so quick. Guys, y'all have a fantastic week. We're into June. We're right after June comes July, Big Brother. So I am excited about that. But it's hot down here in Houston. I'm sure it's hot and rainy enough because it's rained here too. But it's summertime, so y'all enjoy your summers. For those of you who are in school and you're no longer in school, hey, welcome to your summer vacation. And all y'all stay safe this week. I will be back next Monday. Until then, SKD 143. Love my wife, love my kids, love all of y'all, love all the reality TV world itself. Y'all have a great one. Well, I'll see y'all next week. And yay to the U.S. men's team winning this soccer match. I was so excited about that. Cheers, guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.